In my previous life, my husband and I shared 40 years of deep affection, until on his deathbed, he kept murmuring, Yenru, Yenru. Only then did I realize that, after all these decades, he had never forgotten his widowed sister-in-law. I leaned close to his ear and whispered softly, Your sister-in-law Yenru died long ago. Her body lies in the ancient well in the backyard, now nothing but bleached bones. Do you wish to be buried together? My husband looked at me with hopeful eyes. I shattered his last hope. In the ancient well in the backyard, your mother threw in too many bodies. It's impossible to tell which bones belong to Sister Yenru. If you want to bury them together, you'll have to wait until your next life. When I opened my eyes again, I had returned to the moment of my birth. Nanny Chin carried me back to her room. Instead of feeding me, she opened the cabinet and took out a basket hidden inside. In the basket lay an infant wrapped in coarse cloth. My heart was filled with shock. I was about to burst into loud wails, but fearing that it might provoke the wet nurse Chin to kill me, I could only try my best to pout my little mouth. While swapping the swaddling clothes between me and Chen Yenru, the wet nurse Chin warned me viciously, You wretched little girl, if you dare to cry, I'll strangle you right now. In my previous life, when the wet nurse Chin swapped me and Chen Yenru, I don't know whether I cried or not. In this lifetime, to save my life, no matter how rough her actions were or how much she hurt me, I never cried. After wrapping Chen Yenru in the swaddling clothes made of cloud-patterned brocade, Nanny Chin gently held her in her arms, kissed her forehead, and her face was full of reluctance. My daughter, don't blame your mother. I did this so that you could also live the life of a wealthy young lady, enjoying fine clothes, delicious food, and a life of luxury and splendor. In my previous life, it was exactly like this. Because of Nanny Chin's greed, she secretly switched me with Chen Yenru. I, Ning Yunduo, the legitimate eldest daughter of the Duke of England, was taken by her to the countryside, where I endured 15 years of hardship. Nanny Chin, fearing that Li Yenru might go hungry, lifted her clothes and exposed her full breasts to nurse her. Listening to the sound of Li Yenru gulping down the milk, I felt so hungry. However, thinking about the things Chin the embroiderer did to me in my past life makes me feel disgusted. I won't drink a single drop of her milk. After Li Yenru had her fill, Chin the wet nurse gently patted her back to help her burp. She hummed a lullaby from their hometown. Just then, the voice of Nanny Shu came from outside the room. Is the young lady done feeding? The mistress has woken up and would like to see the young lady. Chin the embroiderer was a bit nervous. Nanny Shu, I've just finished feeding the young lady and will take her to see Madam now. The Madam they spoke of was the wife of the Duke of England, my own mother, Lady Lu. She was also the only relative who treated me well after I returned to the Duke of England's residence in my previous life. My marriage to Ling Feibai, the second son of the Prime Minister, was also something she fought for me against all opposition. As for why Li Yenru later married Ling Yangjing, the eldest son of the Prime Minister's family and a renowned young general of the Great Qi dynasty, I do not know the reason. I only know that on their wedding day, before Ling Yangjing could even lift the bridal veil, he received an urgent military notice and led his troops to the border overnight. By the time news of him returned, it was already a year later. To protect the people of the city, Ling Yangjing fell in battle. Li Yenru became a widow, and also the widowed sister-in-law of Ling Feibai. Before I appeared, Li Yenru was still the legitimate eldest daughter of the Duke of Ingwa's household, and she was already engaged to Ling Feibai. Later, it was my mother who produced the marriage contract, which stated that the legitimate daughter of the Duke of Yingwa was to marry the legitimate son of the Prime Minister's household. So, this marriage contract belongs to me. Nanny Shu urged again outside the door. Nanny Chin, hurry up. The mistress has just given birth and is still weak. Nanny Chin muttered under her breath, which woman doesn't give birth? She's the only one who's so precious. Before opening the door, Nanny Chin stuffed me into the cabinet. To prevent me from crying out, she threw another piece of cloth over my face, the one she used to wipe herself, which had a foul smell. The cabinet door closed, plunging everything into darkness. I was genuinely terrified, afraid that I would die just like this, having barely managed to return to this life. Suddenly, a voice reached my ears. It was the steward of the estate. "The front hall is on fire. Hurry, everyone. Drop whatever you're doing and go help put out the fire in the front hall." Nanny Shu said to Madam Chin, the embroiderer, "You don't need to go, just take good care of the eldest young lady. That won't do. Every extra person is an extra pair of hands. If it really catches fire." My daughter, Madam Chin, the embroiderer, realized she had almost let something slip and quickly shut her mouth. Nanny Shu instructed again, "Then put the eldest young lady in the room first. Remember to place her closer to the inside of the bed, so she doesn't fall on the floor." I felt my eyelids growing heavier and the air growing thinner. Just as the cabinet door opened, a pair of small hands lifted me out of the cabinet. It was actually my husband from my previous life, Ling Feibai, with whom I had lived for 40 years. Now, he is just 5 years old, the 5-year-old child. Whether in his eyes or expression, reveals a maturity that does not match his age. This belongs to the 60-year-old Ling Feibai. He has also been reborn. Realizing this, I grew even more anxious inside. A newborn baby, not having had a single sip of milk, had no strength at all. Yet I stubbornly raised my hand and clawed wildly at Ling Feibai's face. In a moment of carelessness, several bloody scratches appeared on his fair and tender face, all from my scratching. He reached out and grabbed my neck. On the face of a 5-year-old child, a sinister, cold smile appeared, like a demon from hell. "Ning Yunjuo, you were so formidable from the moment you were born. No wonder, in your previous life, as soon as you returned to the capital, Yenru was bullied to death by you. Ning Yunjuo, in this lifetime, I will never give anyone the chance to force me to marry you. In this lifetime, my wife can only be Yenru. As for you, so weak now, I could easily strangle you with just a little effort. Dying like this would be too easy for you. In this lifetime, I want you to open your eyes and watch me and Yenru grow old together in love." As Ling Feibai finished his last word, he removed his hand from my neck. Immediately after, he quickly swapped my swaddling clothes with Li Yenru's. When Chin the embroiderer returned, she picked up the baby on the bed, wrapped in a brocade swaddling cloth, with a face full of maternal affection. By then, Li Yenru had already become me. Nanny Shu followed her into the room, reaching out to take me. "Young miss, let this old servant hold you." I observed carefully. A flicker of triumph flashed in Chin the embroiderer's eyes. She thought her plan to secretly swap the babies had already succeeded, in the courtyard of the British princess's mother. After a lifetime apart, I have returned to my mother's side once more, especially as a baby, and I am overjoyed. My mother comes from a noble family. Not only is she beautiful, but her personality is also gentle. I don't want to leave such a wonderful mother. I'm so afraid that later, when I'm taken to Chin the embroiderer's room to be nursed, she'll notice something amiss and swap me back with Li Yenru. I must eat my fill here with mother, opening my little mouth, babbling and cooing. I nuzzle against mother's chest, without a second thought. Mother lifts her top and begins to feed me. Nanny Shu is taken aback. "Madam, you are the mistress of the house. How can you personally breastfeed the young lady?" The wet nurse is waiting in the outer room, ready to feed the young lady at any time. Mother looked down at me, her eyes brimming with so much maternal love it seemed to overflow. She said softly, "Whether I am the wife of the Duke of England or the mistress of the household, first and foremost, I am this child's birth mother. Isn't it only natural for me to feed her?" Nanny Shu's lips twitched, but in the end, she said nothing more. After I was full, I lay in my mother's arms and fell into a sweet sleep. I'm so scared that I'll fall asleep and be sent over to Auntie Chin for care again. With one of my tiny hands, I tightly clutch a strand of my mother's hair. I've already made up my mind. If anyone tries to take me away from my mother, I'll burst into loud sobs. I'll cry until I'm gasping for breath, even if it means I keep spitting up milk. In my previous life, I had a miscarriage once and never conceived again. I always thought it was due to my poor health, but now it seems my infertility was also orchestrated by Ling Fei Bai. Although I never raised a child of my own, I have seen other people's children. Children grow up quickly, almost changing every day. I just need to stay by my mother's side for a few more days. And even if Madam Chin the embroiderer tries to switch me again, my mother will be able to recognize me. In fact, I underestimated Ling Fei Bai's infatuation with Li Yenru. I don't know what method he used. Madam Chin the embroiderer not only failed to notice that Li Yenru had been switched back, but also resigned on the grounds that her husband at home had suddenly fallen seriously ill, and she hurried back to her hometown overnight. Time flies, and in the blink of an eye. I am already 5 years old. In the Great Qi dynasty, noble girls typically begin their education at the age of 5, and I am no exception. On this day, I was learning the guqin from my music teacher, while my mother sat nearby, sipping tea and enjoying the performance. The steward came to report, "Madam, the wife of the Prime Minister and the second son of the Prime Minister's family have arrived." Mother asked me, "Duoa, would you like to come with me to take a look?" Seeing me nod, Mother took my hand and led me to the flower hall. It had been 5 years since I last saw Ling Fei Bai. At 10 years old, Ling Fei Bai already had the appearance of a young man. I saw another young man standing beside him, who looked about the same age as Ling Fei Bai. Compared to Ling Fei Bai, he was more handsome in appearance and stood with a proud posture. However, I noticed the bruises on the back of his hand, which were likely caused by a whip or a bamboo board, after the servant brought hot tea. My mother and the Prime Minister's wife, Madam Meng, exchanged pleasantries. "Madam Ling, what brings you to our residence today?" Over these 5 years, I have heard my mother mutter more than once about her dissatisfaction with the marriage arrangement between the Ning and Ling families. Yet, this was a decision made by the old Duke of England and the old Prime Minister after a night of drinking. As long as neither party commits a major mistake, the engagement cannot be broken off. I have dealt with the Meng family in my past life. She came from a humble background, with her father only holding a minor 6th-rank official position. She received little proper education, had a narrow perspective, and a petty heart. Yet, when it came to tormenting others with malicious schemes, she had one trick after another. Through cunning means, she rose from being the Prime Minister's concubine to his second wife, after Ling Yangjing died in battle. Li Yenru's life in the Prime Minister's residence became even more difficult. Meng She would frequently go to cause trouble for her. Later, Li Yenru left a note saying that she truly missed Ling Yangjing and planned to visit the place where he died in battle at the border, and that she might never return in this lifetime. From then on, she truly vanished without a trace. It was only when Ling Fei Bai was on the verge of taking his last breath that I learned of it from his own words. For 40 years, Ling Fei Bai never gave up searching for Li Yenru. A living person seemed to have disappeared into thin air. As a virtuous wife, I cannot bear to watch my husband die with his eyes wide open in regret. The sister-in-law you've longed for all your life, the one you've searched for tirelessly, your beloved, was thrown into the dried-up well in the backyard by your mother right after she left that farewell letter. No, it can't be. Ling Fei Bai, clinging to his last breath, suddenly widened his eyes in disbelief, staring at me. I sighed. "Husband, we've been married for 40 years. Even though you've deceived me for all those 40 years, given that you're about to pass away, I have no reason to lie to you." Ling Fei Bai let out a sob in his throat, and then he stopped breathing. I looked at his eyes, which remained open even in death, and snorted coldly. A bold servant asked me, "Madam, should we help the master close his eyes?" I waved my hand. No need. For someone who deceived me for 40 years, it is only fitting that he should die with his eyes wide open. I don't know why, but both Ling Changbai and I have been reborn. All I know is that in this lifetime, I must avenge the grievances of my past life. At this moment, Mrs. Meng spoke, pulling my wandering thoughts back to the present. "Madam Ning, I have come today with a matter of great importance." Mother took a sip of tea, her expression calm. "What is it? Please go ahead, Madam Ling." "My husband and I have discussed it and believe that the children's marriage arrangement should be revised. I wonder how Madam Ling would like to revise it." Meng glared at Ling Yangjing, then turned to my mother with a smile. Fei Bai is the second legitimate son. The two family elders had arranged for the eldest legitimate son and the eldest legitimate daughter. Mother set down her teacup, her voice slightly louder than usual. "Is that so?" Meng had prepared her response on the way here and was about to speak when Mother took my hand. In front of everyone present, she asked me, "Duo, there are two brothers standing beside Madam Ling. Which one do you like?" I look at Ling Yangjing, then at Ling Fei Bai. Ling Yanjing's eyes are deep and unfathomable. I have no idea what he's thinking. However, the undisguised disgust on Ling Fei Bai's face and in his eyes is something I can see clearly. I say to my mother, "Mother, the way that little brother looks at me is really frightening." My mother is gentle and kind, but that doesn't mean she is naive and innocent. She is a noble lady raised in a prestigious family, and her mind is naturally astute. Duo, don't be afraid, Mother is here." After saying this, she turned to look at Mrs. Luo. "Madam Ling, your son is so young, yet why does he look at people with such a fierce glare?" Mrs. Luo has only one son, Ling Fei Bai, whom she values more than her own eyes, and she is especially protective of him. Upon hearing her mother mention Ling Fei Bai, she immediately became furious, slapped the armrest of her chair, and stood up abruptly. The petty and mean-spirited nature of someone from a humble background was clearly on display. "A declining duke's household like yours dares to mock my ever-rising Prime Minister's residence. Pa, this marriage was arranged by the old men and has nothing to do with my son. Let that little brat marry your daughter." With those words, she took Ling Fei Bai and left. Ling Yangjing was left standing alone in place. Regardless of whether he was a renowned young general in his past life, he is now just a child of about 10 years old. After a moment of silence, he walked to the center of the flower hall and bowed deeply to his mother. "Madam Ning, if you and Miss Ning do not mind, I will come to marry Miss Ning when I grow up." Compared to Luo Shi and Ling Fei Bai, my mother felt that Ling Yangjing was humble and polite, and everything about him was good. He is also a child who has lost his mother's protection, which can further stir a mother's maternal love. Seeing Ling Yangjing in clothes that were clearly too small for him, with sleeves torn off in large sections, his mother felt heartbroken. "If you want to marry Duo, you must grow up well and make yourself strong and capable. In the future, if you ever want to eat or drink something, or if your clothes don't fit or keep you warm, just come to the Duke's residence." Time flew by once again, and before I knew it, I was already 15 years old. Over the past decade, while attending various banquets, I would occasionally hear noble ladies discussing Ling Fei Bai in private. It is said that he was like a madman, making numerous trips each year to the countryside, which was over 1,000 miles away from the capital. Every time he returned, his mood was extremely foul. This year was even worse. At the beginning of the year, he left the capital with his entourage. It's already September, and he still hasn't returned. Everyone knows he's looking for someone, but no one knows who. On the day of my coming-of-age ceremony, he suddenly burst into the banquet hall, drew his sword, and pointed it at me. "Ning Yunjuo, was it you who hid Yenru? Tell me, what did you do to her?" Most of the guests at the banquet were distinguished ladies and young misses from noble families in the capital. They had never seen someone draw a sword on the spot, and they were all terrified, their faces pale with fear. I knew in advance about Ling Feibai's infatuation with Li Yenru. After all these years of not finding Li Yenru, drawing his sword in public was actually quite restrained. Therefore, my reaction was very calm. Speak up, if you don't say anything. Do you believe I'll kill you with one strike of my sword? Seeing me remain silent, Ling Feibai's eyes were bloodshot, on the verge of collapse. If you want to lay a hand on my fiancé, you'll have to ask for my permission first. Clad in battle armor, with his hair tied up and wearing a crown, Ling Yangjing stood before me like a god descending from the heavens, majestic and heroic. With just a slight raise of his hand, the sword in Ling Feibai's grip clattered to the ground. Ling Yangjing, you're ruthless. Ling Feibai knew he was no match for Ling Yangjing at all. After leaving a harsh remark and shooting me a glare, he walked away. How come you're back? I asked Ling Yangjing with a smile. At the beginning of the year, he had just led troops to Shanxi to suppress bandits. Ling Yangjing took out a small brocade box from his chest and handed it to me. This is for you. As I reached out to take the brocade box, I noticed Ling Yangjing's ears had turned red. He had rushed back, covered in dust and fatigue, just to give me a coming-of-age gift. A pair of exquisitely crafted earrings. I liked them very much. Ling Yangjing still had to return to the palace to report back, so after visiting my father and mother, he left, because of Ling Feibai's actions. My wedding with Ling Yangjing was moved up to 3 months later. Ling Yangjing also requested an imperial decree from the emperor to bestow the marriage. Sitting by the bed, resting my chin on one hand, I watched my mother bustling about preparing my dowry, and carefully recalled the timeline from my previous life. In the previous life, Ling Yangjing also married Li Yenru next year. In this life, there is no talk of a true or false heiress, and many things have changed. The year after next, Ling Yangjing will die in battle. Since I already know in advance, in this lifetime, I won't just stand by and watch him die. Marry him. If he still has to go to the border on our wedding night, I will definitely follow. The border has been very peaceful lately. So Ling Yangjing can stay in the capital and focus on preparing for the wedding. He comes to visit me at the Duke of England's residence almost every day. With my mother's permission, he takes me out shopping, treats me to delicious food, and brings me to tea houses to listen to storytelling. The days passed quietly and comfortably, until one day, a disheveled woman in tattered clothes appeared at the gate of the Duke of England's residence. She shouted that she was the legitimate eldest daughter of the Duke of England's household. 15 years ago, she had been switched at birth by her malicious grandmother. Here she comes. In this lifetime, Li Yenru has finally appeared, afraid that I might be upset. Mother gently patted my hand and comforted me, saying, Duo, you were raised by me personally. Whether you are my biological child or not, I know better than anyone. My nose tingled with emotion. In my previous life, the reason I was able to return to the Duke of England's mansion was because Mother felt that Li Yenru was not her biological daughter. It was her persistence in searching for many years that finally brought me back. After being led by the gatekeeper to the side hall, Li Yenru clung to her mother's leg and began to wail. Mother, Yenru has finally found you. Mother calmly withdrew her foot. The 2 words Yenru that Li Yenru had just used to introduce herself had clearly aroused my mother's suspicion. She gave a meaningful glance to Mother Shu, who silently withdrew. Miss, I'm a bit confused by what you're saying. My daughter has always been by my side. How could you be my daughter? I didn't give birth to twins. Mother, Li Yenru shot me a venomous look. It was her filthy, lowly mother. Her name is Qin Xioma. She used to work as a wet nurse in our household. She wanted her daughter to live the good life of a wealthy young lady, so she swapped me with her daughter. Mother, I truly am your biological daughter. Li Yenru knelt on the ground, looking at her mother as she wailed in sorrow. Her mother rubbed her temples and said, "It's been 15 years since that happened. How did you find out?" I overheard it when Madame Qin and her husband were talking. What's going on here? All this noise and commotion. Before my mother could respond, my father's voice came from outside the door. Hearing my father's voice, Li Yenru's eyes clearly lit up, and her whole body trembled with excitement, so much so that as soon as my father stepped over the threshold, Li Yenru rushed forward and hugged him tightly. My father, the dignified Duke of England, nearly stumbled and fell. His face instantly turned very unpleasant. Where did this beggar come from? Li Yenru had no idea how long it had been since she last bathed. Her body carried a sour, foul odor. "Dad, I'm not a beggar. I'm your own flesh and blood." My father's brow furrowed tightly. "Nonsense. I only have one daughter." A flicker of hesitation crossed his face as he seemed to recall something. Although it was fast, I saw it clearly. I sneered silently. The doubt that had troubled me for 2 lifetimes was finally resolved. "Someone, get her out of here," my father said angrily, forcefully shaking off the hand that was clinging to his leg. The housekeeper quickly brought the servants to drag Li Yenru away. Li Yenru clung desperately to the doorframe, refusing to let go. As the steward was about to strike the back of her hand, a voice swiftly called out, "Everyone, stop." Soon, Ling Feibai, who had been alerted by Nanny Shu, appeared. He pushed aside the servants who were pulling and dragging Li Yenru. He crouched down and scooped her into his arms, without the slightest hint of disgust for the unpleasant odor on her. His face filled with heartache. He said, "Rua, it's all my fault. I haven't been able to find you all these years, and I've let you suffer." I raised an eyebrow, leaned close to my mother, and told her the secret I had kept hidden for 15 years. Upon hearing it, my mother was stunned. After regaining her composure, she took my hand, and for a long while, she was filled with lingering fear. "I know what she's afraid of. What if Ling Feibai doesn't swap me and Li Yenru back? Now, the person who reeks of filth, is dressed in rags, and looks like a madwoman is me." I comforted my mother. Even if I were really swapped by Qin the embroideress, I believe that one day, Mother, you would find me. Mother looked at me with tears in her eyes. Ling Yangjing also arrived. Uncharacteristically disregarding etiquette, he walked straight to my side, his eyes filled with concern as he asked, "Duoa, are you all right? I'm sorry I came late." I shook my head with a smile. "I'm fine. You didn't come late at all. You arrived just in time." Ling Feibai held Li Yenru in his arms. As if cradling a long-lost treasure, he said to my father, "Duke Ningguo, Yenru is indeed your daughter. I am taking her away today. In 3 days, I will bring her back. Have someone prepare. For on the day she returns, I want her to be married from the Duke's residence." His tone was commanding, leaving no room for negotiation. My father, who had never been threatened by such a junior before, was immediately furious. "Young man of the Ling family, what nonsense are you spouting?" "I am not speaking nonsense." Ling Feibai turned to look at my mother again. "Madam Ning, Yenru is the daughter of Duke Ying and Madam Qin the embroiderer. She is, without a doubt, also a young lady of the Duke Ying's household. 15 years ago, Madam Qin the embroiderer took advantage of her position as a wet nurse to swap the child she gave birth to with yours. Just as she completed the switch, a sudden fire broke out in the front hall, and I switched the 2 children back. You should still remember that fire. I was the one who started it. Even if my mother had failed to break off the engagement 10 years ago, I would never have married Ning Yunduo. My wife could only ever be Yenru." With those words, he turned and walked away, carrying Li Yenru in his arms. My mother's face turned deathly pale, and she held my hand, trembling uncontrollably. My mother raised her voice sharply, demanding of my father, "Ning Chongqing, is what Ling Feibai just said true?" An awkward expression flashed across my father's face. Soon, He calmed down again. That time, I was drunk and mistook Madam Qin for you. I never expected her to get pregnant after just one encounter. She refused to have the child aborted no matter what. I thought I'd give her some silver once the child was born, and would never see each other again. Who would have thought she'd harbor the idea of swapping the child? Fortunately, she didn't succeed. My mother trembled with anger at his indifference. Ning Changxing, you are shameless and utterly unworthy of being a father. Ning Changxing wearily rubbed his temples. Madam, it's been so many years since that happened. Besides, Yunjuo wasn't taken away, so let bygones be bygones. I want a divorce. Mother looked into Ning Changxing's eyes and said with certainty, Ning Changxing was about to speak when the gatekeeper hurried in to report, Master, Madam, something terrible has happened. A crazy woman has come to the gate, and she's fighting with the second young master of the Ling family. There's such an exciting brawl to watch. I gently tugged on Ling Yanjing's sleeve. Let's go take a look together. Ling Yanjing smiled gently. All right. At the entrance of the Duke of England's residence, Qin Shumiang, who had been missing for 15 years, was fighting with Ling Feibai. Ling Feibai had initially intended to be polite to Qin Shumiang, considering she was Li Yanru's biological mother. However, upon seeing her rush forward to both hit and scold Li Yanru, and hearing the vulgar, unbearable insults she hurled, he could no longer tolerate it in the slightest. He immediately raised his foot and kicked Qin Shumiang. Qin Shumiang scrambled to her feet and immediately began wrestling with Ling Feibai. In no time, Ling Feibai's face was scratched. His clothes were torn, and his hair crown was askew. Seeing Qin Shumiang open her mouth, about to bite down on his thigh, Ling Feibai was both furious and frantic. Qin Shumiang, that's enough. There's no mother in this world like you. Yenru is your own daughter. Look at how you've abused her. Qin Shumiang was stunned, blinking her eyes as she retorted to Ling Feibai. What did you say? This little slut. How could she possibly be my own daughter? As she spoke, she raised her hand and pointed at Li Yenru. She's just trash, a slut, who knew how to seduce that gambler Li Daking when she was only 2 or 3 years old. Li Yenru trembled reflexively, her eyes filled with terror. Ling Feibai hid her behind him, took a deep breath, and said to Qin Shumiang, 15 years ago, when you followed the servants of the Duke of Ying's household to the front hall to put out the fire, I swapped the 2 children back. As for the rumors you heard, it is customary for the children of the Duke of England's household to undergo a blood test with both parents shortly after birth. I gave those 2 servants a bit of silver and arranged for them to deliberately tell you. Only in this way, believing the switch had succeeded, would you take Yenru and flee the Duke of England's household overnight. After a pause, Ling Changbai let out a long sigh. However, I never expected that, fearing the Duke of England's household would find you. You moved away just a few days after returning to your hometown. Over the past decade, I have searched for Yenru countless times but never found her. And you, mistakenly believing that Yenru was not your own, subjected her to all kinds of abuse. From what you just said, I even know that you allowed your gambler husband to ruin her. Li Yenru was neither insane nor foolish. Hearing this, she had already understood the entire course of events, so it was Qin the embroiderer who secretly switched her to become the legitimate eldest daughter of the Duke of Ingwa's household. It was Ling Changbai who switched her back again. Moreover, it was because he frightened Madam Qin that she took her and left the Duke of Ying's residence overnight, and didn't stay in their hometown either. Madam Qin's abuse, insults, and even allowing Li Daking and other idlers in the village to violate and mistreat her were all because she mistakenly believed she wasn't her biological child. All her tragic experiences were caused by Ling Changbai. Hiding behind Ling Changbai, she suddenly revealed a fierce glare in her eyes. Upon learning the whole truth, Madam Qin shot me a venomous glance, cursed Ning Changxing a few times, and then charged headfirst toward the stone lion at the entrance. Blood gushed out like a fountain. And she died on the spot. Fearing that his mother would ask his grandfather to impeach him before the emperor, Ning Changxing had no choice but to agree to divorce me after our marriage, to ensure my mother could leave the marriage as soon as possible and to change Ling Yanjing's fate of an early death in his previous life. I insisted on moving the wedding up to 3 days later. After Madame Qin's commotion on Newton Street, the official families living nearby all came to know Li Yenru, who was also a daughter of the Duke of England's household. It is unclear what considerations led Ning Changxing to agree to Ling Changbai's request, allowing Li Yenru to marry from the Duke of England's residence 3 days later. Soon, 3 days passed, and both Li Yenru and I were married from the Duke of England's residence. Unlike my substantial dowry, Li Yenru had only a sparse dozen or so items sent by Ling Changbai to maintain appearances. At this point, she no longer bothered to pretend. "Ning Yunjuo, do you think you've won?" she suddenly said with a sinister tone as she walked out the door. My expression remained calm. "What do you mean by that? Life as a widow is not easy to endure." Li Yenru threw down these words and rushed out the door ahead of me, heading toward the bridal sedan chair waiting for her. I narrowed my eyes slightly. Li Yenru had also been reborn. This play was truly becoming more and more thrilling. In the bridal chamber, Ling Yangjing lifted my red veil. His face flushed, and said, "My lady, you are truly beautiful." I pursed my lips and smiled lightly. "My husband is also very handsome, but with me, your wife, being so beautiful, would you really be willing to let me become a widow, endure the scorn of others, and be bullied by outsiders?" Ling Yangjing, a brave and battle-hardened undefeated general, was so frightened by my words that his face turned pale. "My lady, I absolutely will not allow anyone to bully you. I have something very important to tell you." I told Ling Yangjing about my experience of being reborn. He is really smart. Quickly realizing that Ling Feibai is also reborn, Ling Yangjing holds me tightly with heartache. I nestle against his chest and whisper, "In this lifetime, for my sake, you must live well." Ling Xiaojing rests his chin on the top of my head, gently rubbing it. His pleasant voice came from above. "I've long suspected there was a spy leaking information to the Xiongnu. In the next few days, we should be able to close the net." I had just come of age, and Ling Xiaojing, worried it might harm my health, restrained himself from touching me. We simply held each other and slept through the night. The next day, Ling Yanjing's deputy caught the spy in the study. It was none other than Ling Changbai. With both witnesses and material evidence present, Ling Changbai was thrown into the town prison, awaiting a thorough investigation by the Dali Temple before being formally charged. If nothing goes wrong, colluding with the enemy and betraying the country is a capital offense punishable by beheading. Li Yenru, with eyes red from crying, came to the study to find Ling Yangjing. "Yangjing, in our previous life, you clearly married me. Have you forgotten all of that?" Ling Yangjing frowned in disgust. "You have no right to enter my study. Get out." Li Yenru still wanted to play the victim, but the deputy general had already dragged her to the study door and thrown her out. The border was once again unstable, and Ling Yangjing would be leading the army to depart tomorrow. I was uneasy and insisted on following. He had no choice but to allow it. The day before departure, another major incident occurred at the Prime Minister's residence. Lady Luo, the wife of the Prime Minister, caught her own daughter-in-law, Li Yenru, in an affair with her husband. Her world seemed to collapse. During the argument with Li Yenru, she was stabbed in the throat by Li Yenru with a hairpin. Blood spurted a jong high, and before she could even call for help, she took her last breath. Li Yenru was also imprisoned by the Dali Temple for harming her mother-in-law, and she happened to be placed in the cell next to Ling Changbai. Although Ling Changbai was dissatisfied with his mother for killing Li Yenru in her previous life, she was, after all, his mother. especially after hearing that it was because Li Yenru had seduced his father and was caught in bed by his mother. He was so furious he almost exploded. Looking at Li Yenru, there was no trace of the tenderness from the past in his eyes. "You poisonous woman. I always thought you were forced into bed with Li Daking and those other scoundrels from your village. Turns out, you're just naturally promiscuous." "That's right, I'm promiscuous, I'm cheap, I'm fickle." Li Yenru laughed hysterically. When she finally stopped laughing, she glared fiercely at Ling Changbai. "My life has been so miserable, and it's all because of you. Otherwise, I would still be the legitimate daughter of the Duke of England, and with the memories from my past life, even if I married Ling Yangjing, I would have found a way to keep him from going to war. Oh, by the way, in my previous life, you always thought I married Ling Yangjing only because I lost the chance to marry you. Right?" Ling Changbai gritted his teeth, veins bulging on his forehead. "You were deceived by me. I had fallen for Ling Yangjing long ago, but because of your mother as the stepmother, she constantly framed and targeted Ling Yangjing. I felt he wasn't as promising as you, which is why I agreed to marry you." Later, Ning Yunjuo returned. By that time, Ling Yangjing had already achieved numerous military successes. "I was just worrying about how to break off the engagement with you. And as luck would have it, Ning Yunjuo helped me out tremendously. Just like that, I got my wish and married Ling Yangjing. Little did I expect that on our wedding night, he didn't even lift my bridal veil before heading to the border. The resentment in my heart was overwhelming, especially toward the jealous Ning Yunjuo. If I wasn't going to have it easy, she wouldn't either." "You fool, you actually believed my provocation. Not only did you drug and cause Ning Yunjuo to lose the first child she was carrying for you, but you also made her unable to conceive for life." Hearing this, Ling Changbai could no longer hold back and interrupted Li Yenru with a furious roar. After a moment of silence, he asked Li Yenru again, "In your past life, how exactly did you die?" Li Yenru's fingers hooked a strand of hair that had slipped to her ear, idly toying with it. "I'm still young. Of course I don't want to be a widow for Ling Yangjing. I hooked up with Prince Yu and climbed into his bed." "Prince Yu?" Ling Changbai exclaimed in shock. "He's even older than your grandfather. What does it matter if a man is a bit older? As long as he has power, influence, and money, he can give me a good life." Li Yenru sneered coldly. "Unfortunately, that old hag, the Princess of Yu, was extremely jealous and ruthless. She set me up to be caught in adultery with the stableman of the palace, and the Prince of Yu saw it with his own eyes. They sold me into the cheapest brothel, where I had to serve dozens of customers every day. Soon, I contracted a filthy disease, and no one treated me. I died in agony." Ling Changbai took a step back, collapsing to the ground, muttering to himself, "In my previous life, I actually wronged Duoa. It wasn't that she refused to save me, but that she had no idea where a wretch like you had gone." "Duoa," Li Yenru spat toward Ling Changbai's prison cell. "Now you know to call her so affectionately, but it's too late. In your past life, you stood before me, repeatedly calling her a bitch, a slut. Shut your mouth." The shameful deeds of his past life were laid bare by Li Yenru, and Ling Changbai could no longer bear it, roaring furiously to cut her off. Li Yenru had no intention of letting Ling Changbai off, and continued. "The child is dead and now you come with milk. The horse has crashed into the tree and now you think to turn. The snot is in your mouth and now you remember to wipe it away. It's too late, everything is too late. Your Duoa has married the brother you despise most, Ling Yangjing, and she will bear his children." At the other end of the prison, Ling Yangjing wrapped his arm around my waist, his warm breath brushing against my face. He gazed at me affectionately. "Duoa, how many children shall we have?" I pinched his waist hard. "That depends on your ability." Before Ling Changbai was beheaded, he wanted to see me one last time, but I refused. He wrote a letter and had the jailer deliver it to me. I didn't even look at it and threw it directly into the brazier. I asked the jailer to pass a message to Ling Changbai for me. In his previous life, his dying wish was to be buried with Li Yenru, and in this life, he can finally have his wish fulfilled. I heard that after Ling Changbai heard those words, he nearly went mad. In his prison cell, he would burst into tears one moment and then break into hysterical laughter the next. Now, I am 7 months pregnant, and Ling Yangjing treats me as if I were the apple of his eye. Upon learning that Ling Changbai had written me a letter, he rushed to the prison and gave Ling Changbai a severe beating. It is said that before the execution, when the supervising official was verifying the identity of the condemned, he had to put in a great deal of effort to confirm it was indeed Ling Changbai, whose face was swollen like a pig's head. Mother and Ning Chongqing successfully divorced. The vast Duke of England's mansion, now without a capable mistress to manage the household and lacking the subsidy from the mistress's dowry, became chaotic and restless day and night. As for me, I sat on a chair in the garden, eating fruit, basking in the sun, while Ling Yangjing read me a storybook about a wealthy young lady falling in love with a poor scholar. The years are peaceful, and life is content. After hearing the first story above, what are your thoughts? Feel free to share your opinions in the comments section. Next, there is another similar story. Let's continue to see. On the day of the birth, I discovered that my husband's mistress, Lin Wanwan, had switched her child with mine. I rewarded the midwife, who was aware of the truth, with 3,000 taels of silver, instructing her to keep it a secret. The mistress's son, raised under my care as the legitimate eldest son of the Marquis's household, received the family's full support and cultivation. At the age of 18, he achieved the 3rd place in the imperial examinations and, with his noble and refined demeanor, gained the emperor's favor. And my son, who is beaten by Lin Wanwan at the slightest provocation every day, is even harshly treated when it comes to food, leaving him short and frail. He was also deliberately lured into gambling dens and brothels, developing a host of bad habits. By the age of 16, he had already been branded as punishment for his misdeeds. On the day the heir was officially in theft, Lin Wanwan stopped the top scholar in front of the Marquis's mansion, tears streaming down her face. My stolen son, I am your poor, unfortunate birth mother. I smile with a light and carefree expression. Lin Wanwan, I've been looking forward to your visit for a long time. Upon hearing this, a flicker of confusion passes through Lin Wanwan's eyes, but her arms holding Yang Lin do not loosen in the slightest. My son, did you hear that? This wretched woman has admitted with her own words that I am your real mother. Under the watchful eyes of the crowd, this once graceful and upright scholar, who had achieved the 3rd place in the imperial examination, found himself in a rare moment of disarray. He tried to push Lin Wanwan away, but upon noticing his attempt, she cried even more heart-wrenchingly, "My son has finally made something of himself. Yet he won't even acknowledge his own mother." Yang Lin, born into a noble household, was accustomed to mingling with refined and cultured individuals. When had he ever encountered someone so unreasonable and obstinate? He couldn't help but cast a pleading glance in my direction. "Mother, what is going on? After all, he is a child I have raised for 18 years, and I cannot bear to see him so embarrassed." I spoke up to diffuse the situation. "If there is something to discuss, let's go into the Marquis's residence. If you want to humiliate Yang Lin and ruin his future today, then go ahead and make a scene right here. Today, Yang Lin will be officially in theft as the heir, and even his aunt, Consort Yang, will accompany the emperor to visit and observe the ceremony. Everyone knows that Consort Yang has been the most favored in the imperial harem for over a decade, and even the empress yields to her to some extent. If one were to bring bad luck on such an important day, it would truly be a great disrespect." Lin Wanwan clearly has no intention of stepping into the Marquis's residence, and the onlooking crowd is her best support. But after glancing at Yang Lin, she hesitated. Clearly unwilling to let her son's bright future be affected, seeing Lin Wanwan persistently refusing to let go, Yang Lin showed a trace of annoyance in his expression, but his good upbringing prevented him from pushing her away in public. However, Lin Wanwan was provoked by Yang Lin's expression. "You may have made something of yourself now, but that doesn't mean you can deny your own mother, does it? They all say the official's mother will be granted the title of Lady of the Commandery by the Emperor. What an honor!" Yang Lin finally could bear it no longer. He forcefully broke free from Lin Wanwan's grasp and, restraining his anger, said, "Madam, please show some self-respect. I have only one mother, and that is the Lady of Anping Marquis." Lin Wanwan, caught off guard, was pushed down, her forehead striking the stone lion beside her, instantly disfiguring her. She suddenly flew into a rage, pointing at Yang Lin's nose and cursing, "You unfilial son. Today, I will tell you that back then, I bribed the midwife to switch the child born to that wretched woman with my own son, and you are the very child I carried in my womb for 10 months. Lin Wanwan pulled out a young man from the crowd, his face tattooed and his demeanor sleazy. "This is the legitimate eldest son born to the Marquis's wife, Yang Ping." Yang Ping was somewhat reluctant to show his face and struggled slightly. But after Lin Wanwan pinched him twice, he complied. He was thin and short in stature, clearly having not eaten his fill on a daily basis. Standing beside Yang Lin, who was the same age, he looked more like a half-grown child. One was an elegant and graceful top scholar, the other a timid and cowering criminal with a facial tattoo. The contrast between the two was immediately apparent. Passers-by were already whispering among themselves, "Are the tattoos on his face from ink punishment? He's a thief. Where did this crazy woman come from? She just grabs a criminal and calls him the heir of the Marquis's household." Hearing these comments, Yang Ping tried to hide with a dark expression, but Lin Wanwan held him tightly, embarrassed on the surface, like a rat in the gutter seeing sunlight for the first time. No one believed Lin Wanwan, except for me. After years of whispering in Lin Wanwan's ear, she has finally developed the ambition to go and exchange the children. In such a prestigious and deep courtyard household as the Marquis's estate, how could Lin Wanwan have succeeded in swapping the 2 children back then without my deliberate indulgence? When Lin Wanwan first swapped the children, Yang Hongcheng would often visit her because she had a boy under her care. As Lin Wanwan deliberately raised Yang Ping to be mediocre and she herself grew older and lost her beauty, Yang Hongcheng gradually stopped visiting her, only providing some money each month. From then on, Lin Wanwan's harsh treatment of Yang Ping intensified, often resorting to beatings or scoldings. She also prevented Yang Ping from studying, deliberately allowing people from all walks of life to lure him into indulging in gambling and debauchery. How could the monthly allowance Yang Hongcheng gave to Lin Wanwan and her son be enough for his own pleasures? He was led to steal and rob. At the age of 15, he was punished with facial tattooing for committing theft. Looking at Yang Ping before him, he had already been ruined as Lin Wanwan had wished. Yang Lin also did not believe Lin Wanwan's absurd words and immediately called for the guards. Lin Wanwan naturally refused to comply, struggling while tearfully accusing the Marquis's household of bullying others with their power. At that moment, Marquis Anping, Yang Hongcheng, happened to be returning home from court and, seeing the commotion at the gate, couldn't help but frown. Upon seeing Yang Hongcheng, Lin Wanwan's voice suddenly softened by 3 parts. "Cheng Lang, I have been left alone in an empty room for 3 years, yet you have delayed in coming to see me. Have you grown tired of me?" Yang Hongcheng stared at Lin Wanwan for a moment before remembering who she was, always one to care about his reputation. He glanced at the crowd gathered at the Marquis Mansion's entrance with a dark expression and ordered someone to invite Lin Wanwan inside. The moment the small door slowly closed, Yang Hongcheng's expression changed abruptly. He turned sharply, his movements swift and decisive, and slapped me hard across the face. The force was so great that I staggered several steps involuntarily. A vivid red mark instantly appeared on my cheek, burning with a stinging pain. Yang Lin, the first to react, rushed over to support me, his tone filled with anger. "Why did you harm mother, father?" Seeing me being struck, Lin Wanwan initially wore a look of schadenfreude. But upon noticing Yang Lin's anxious expression, a fierce glint surfaced in her eyes. At that moment, Yang Hongcheng sneered coldly. "Lin Wanwan is being unreasonable. But Zhao Ning, as the mistress of the Marquis Manor, are you also as unreasonable as she is? She came asking for status. So just give it to her. Today is the day of the imperial consort's homecoming. The manor has been preparing for a long time. If you can't even handle such minor details, how are you fit to be the mother of the heir?" It seems Yang Hongcheng sees Lin Wanwan as someone who came to demand status. Yang Lin's reaction was even stronger than mine. A faint anger appeared on his face. "It's clearly Mrs. Lin's fault. Yet father blames mother instead. Isn't that too biased?" Although the affection between Yang Hongcheng and me has grown thin, he has always shown me a certain degree of respect on the surface. For so many years, to present the image of a harmonious couple, he hasn't taken a single concubine. All because someone said that children who grow up in an environment where their parents are loving will have a brighter future. Now that Yang Lin has grown up and passed the imperial examination, he naturally no longer wishes to engage in superficial pleasantries with me. Yang Hongcheng's expression was cold. Regardless of whose fault it is, the way Zhao handled the situation today was inappropriate. Lin Wanwan's lips curled upward uncontrollably. "Master, are you truly going to give me a proper status? I have waited for 18 years, much like Xue Baochuan in the Cold Kill, and at last, I have seen the clouds part and the moon shine through, but as long as it is for you, master, I am willing to wait however long it takes." Lin Wanwan's gentle and flattering demeanor clearly pleased Yang Hongcheng greatly. Yang Hongcheng's lips curved slightly at the corners. "How you treat me, I naturally see it clearly. What harm is there in giving you a proper status?" I covered my face, hiding the swelling and redness, and also concealing the cold smile at the corner of my lips. "I shall follow the Marquis's wishes. How about granting Lin the position of a respectable concubine?" Yang Hongcheng was determined to pick on me today and deliberately made things difficult, saying, "That's too low. Let's follow the protocol for a side consort and welcome her into the household." Lin Wanwan knew she was just one of Yang Hongcheng's many mistresses, and she was also aware of his practice of keeping mistresses but never taking concubines. Over the years, she had long given up hope of ever entering the household. This time, she had originally intended to exchange for her child. But she never expected such a stroke of good fortune to fall upon her. Naturally, she was overjoyed. She immediately assumed a humble posture, bowing to me and saying, "Sister, I offer my respects to you first, and I hope you will look after me in the days to come." Noticing the smugness in the corners of her eyes and brows, I patted Yang Lin's hand to reassure him, then turned to Yang Hongcheng and asked, "It's a good thing the household is thriving. When Yang Ping is entered into the family register, will he be ranked as the second son of the Yang family?" Yang Hongcheng followed my gaze and saw Yang Ping in the corner, puzzled. "Yang Ping?" Lin Wanwan's expression turned somewhat unnatural. "Master, you haven't visited us mother and son for too long." In the blink of an eye, Pinger is already 18 years old. Yang Hongcheng finally remembered that he had such a grown son outside, but when his gaze fell on the tattoo on Yang Ping's face, he couldn't help but fly into a rage. "What's with the tattoo on his face, Lin Wanwan? Is this how you've raised the child?" Seeing Yang Hongcheng's aggressive demeanor, Lin Wanwan instinctively shrank her neck, her lips twitching slightly, but she dared not say a word. I stepped in to smooth things over, saying, "Young people are most prone to act on impulse, and with the lack of a father's guidance, it's only natural for them to make some mistakes." Yang Hongcheng pressed his temples. Then glanced at the dashing Yang Lin standing nearby, and his temper subsided slightly. This outstanding eldest son, a true dragon among men, was almost his greatest pride. Yang Hongcheng commanded imperiously. There's no need to add him to the family register either. A son born to a concubine doesn't need to be included. Everyone could see that Yang Hongcheng was extremely disdainful of this son. But Lin Wanwan was unwilling to accept that the position of side consort she had secured had suddenly been reduced to that of a concubine. Seeing Yang Hongcheng about to turn and leave, Lin Wanwan quickly knelt at his feet, tugging at the hem of his robe with a pitiful expression. "My lord, I have something to confess to you." But Yang Hongcheng pushed her away. "I have already given you face. Is no one here to take her to the backyard and settle her? Her Highness the noble consort and His Majesty will arrive this afternoon to witness the ceremony for our son's investiture. No one is allowed to make any mistakes today." Yang Hongcheng values this sister immensely, as the once prosperous marquisate, squandered over 3 generations, now relies largely on the glory of this ever-favored imperial consort. He was in a hurry to go back and change clothes, while I instructed someone to take Lin Wanwan and Yang Ping to the backyard. Lin Wanwan, dissatisfied with her status, was about to make another scene. I warned her in a seemingly stern tone. "Today, a distinguished guest has arrived at the mansion. Although they are of a gentle disposition, they will not tolerate such unreasonable behavior from you. Have you considered the consequences?" Upon hearing this, Lin Wanwan shrank her neck slightly, but her eyes kept darting around. I paid no further attention to her and continued preparing for today's arrangements. Although it was the ceremony for the investiture of the heir, all the extravagance was actually tailored to the preferences of the imperial consort. In the afternoon, the grand procession of ceremonial carriages arrived at the main gate. The sage emperor assisted the resplendent consort Yang, adorned in pearls and jewels, as she alighted from the carriage, truly showing her the utmost respect. Accompanying her on this homecoming visit was already an immense favor in itself. Although consort Yang was nearing 40, years of living in luxury had preserved her beauty, making her appear as radiant as a woman in her 20s. Time has left no trace on this beauty, instead adding a touch of charm. Her every gesture exudes pride, and her voice is exceptionally soft and enchanting. "It's just a visit home, why go to such lengths?" Consort Yang's gaze swept over the crowd and settled on Yang Lin, softening slightly. In the blink of an eye, Lina has grown so much. Yang Lin performed a respectful bow and then said, "Over these years, I must thank the noble consort for her care and guidance." Noble consort Yang feigned a scolding tone and said, "Since we are family, why be so formal?" Yang Lin promptly changed his tone. "Aunt, I have personally planted a patch of Wei purple peonies for you in the backyard. Would you like to take a look?" I smiled warmly, as it was my idea for Yang Lin to plant Wei purple peonies for the imperial consort. Seeing the delight on consort Yang's face, I knew this idea was a good one. The emperor watched the closeness between consort Yang and Yang Lin with a meaningful smile. "The peony is delicate and hard to cultivate, truly worthy of being the top scholar I personally selected. You are quite thoughtful." Consort Yang took the opportunity to act coquettishly toward the emperor. "Lina is the only son of my elder brother. Your Majesty must not send him to some corrupt and chaotic place. I think it would be best for Lina to secure a minor position within one of the 6 ministries." Speaking these words publicly was already somewhat overstepping bounds. The emperor did not immediately agree, but neither did he refuse. The group had been chatting and laughing merrily, but as they reached the rear courtyard, a mournful weeping sound drifted from behind the rockery. The imperial consort halted her steps and frowned, saying, "Who is it that weeps here in hiding?" Having changed into plain mourning garments, Lin Wanwan emerged from behind the rockery with a sorrowful expression. She sang mournfully, the son a marquis, the mother a lowly commoner, grinding grain from dawn till dusk, ever in the shadow of death. Heaven is unjust, but the two noble ones are wiser than the heavens. I beg you to uphold justice for me." Yang Hongqing's brow twitched, and in the next moment, he shot me a fierce glare, clearly blaming me for this matter once again. The imperial consort raised her delicate eyebrows slightly, exchanged a glance with the emperor, and then spoke slowly. "What injustice have you suffered? Speak truthfully, and His Majesty and I will ensure you are not wronged." Lin Wanwan, seeing the imperial consort and the sage truly so approachable, could not help but be overjoyed. She bowed her head to the ground and then pointed at me, saying, "Today, I shall accuse the wife of the Marquis's household." The imperial consort immediately became intrigued, her smile growing more genuine. "What do you accuse her of?" Lin Wanwan said word by word. "Back then, the Marquis's wife took my child and raised him as her own. How could she possibly give birth to such an outstanding child as Yang Lin?" The imperial consort's smile suddenly froze on her face. It wasn't until the emperor looked at her in confusion that she forced a smile and asked again, "What did you say?" Seeing Lin Wanwan firmly repeat her words, I struggled to suppress the upward curve of my lips. Lin Wanwan was born in the bustling streets, a place where only the strong could secure advantages, but she didn't know that in noble families, the kindest faces often concealed the most ruthless methods. Pitifully, she was now on the brink of death, yet remained completely unaware. Lin Wanwan spoke with tears streaming down her face, as if each word were dripping with blood. "Lina is truly the child of me and the master. At this point, no matter how the mistress torments me, I will accept it." While everyone was stunned by this unexpected turn of events, only Yang Hongcheng remained completely unconvinced by Lin Wanwan's words, merely letting out a scornful laugh. "Is Lina your child? What kind of daydream are you having? Stop talking nonsense here. Lina is not someone you can get involved with." Yang Hongcheng immediately ordered the servants to drag her away, but was stopped by consort Yang. Lin Wanwan closed her eyes, steeled her heart, and spoke with a determination to lay everything bare. "I still remember, Lina had a blue birthmark the size of a copper coin on his lower back." Yang Lin's face turned pale as he looked at me, at a loss. Seeing that he had no intention of acknowledging it, Lin Wanwan rushed forward and wrapped her arms around Yang Lin's waist, shouting, "I absolutely cannot be mistaken. If you don't believe me, just take a look and you'll know. Noble families place the utmost importance on appearance and demeanor. So how could Yang Lin be willing to let this crazed woman get close? After all, he was a grown man, and with a slight exertion of force, he broke free from Lin Wanwan's restraint." Yang Hongcheng looked at his beloved son tidying his attire and angrily scolded Lin Wanwan. "What on earth are you doing, acting so crazy? If it weren't for the fact that you've been with me for a long time, today you wouldn't even be fit to be a concubine." Yang Hongcheng was nearly driven mad with rage. With both esteemed guests present today, he had hoped to make a good impression in front of the emperor, with an eye toward future promotions and titles. Lin Wanwan's disgraceful behavior was truly a loss of both dignity and face, and it might even affect the emperor's favor toward the imperial consort. The emperor, who had remained silent all along, suddenly spoke up. "What mother in the world would abandon her own child? A newborn can hardly reveal any innate qualities. If you do not tell the truth now, I will have you executed publicly." The saint's imposing aura was like a mountain, striking fear even in ordinary court officials, let alone Lin Wanwan. She trembled and admitted truthfully, "It was my momentary foolishness, wanting a better life for my child, that led me to swap the two children. But now I truly know my mistake and only wish to reclaim my own child." The sage's face remained unperturbed, still questioning. With a household of such high status, when the mistress gives birth, there are maids and servants everywhere, under the watchful eyes of all. How could you possibly have switched the child? Lin Wanwan's eyes lit up. That's right, noble one, master. The midwives from that day, 2 of them are still practicing midwifery in the capital. Just summon them for questioning and the truth will be known. Yang Hongcheng looked at Consort Yang, but her expression was icy cold, showing no intention of following Lin Wanwan's suggestion, because she simply did not believe such a preposterous claim, nor was she willing to entertain the possibility. Her nephew was the most talented and brilliant young master in Luojing. With the support of the Marquis's estate and the Emperor's favor, his future was boundless. How could Lin Wanwan be worthy of becoming Yang Lin's mother? As for Yang Lin, his expression was downcast because he did indeed have a birthmark on his waist. But how did Lin Wanwan know about it? The sage also slowly spoke. Today, I originally intended to infect the eldest son of the Marquis's household as the heir, but now that Linus' origins are unclear, I cannot rashly grant him the title. Moreover, this will become a lifelong stain on him, in the future, when he enters officialdom. It will also become a weapon for his political opponents to attack him. Rather than following this woman's words, why not bring those 2 midwives here for questioning? I chimed in, saying, the sage speaks with reason. I, your humble servant, also firmly believe that the child is mine. On the day of the birth, the Marquis himself was guarding the delivery room. How could there be any mistake? Yang Hongcheng and Consort Yang exchanged a glance, the furrows in their brows beginning to ease. Seeing the attitudes of Yang Hongcheng and me, Yang Lin also breathed a slight sigh of relief about his own mysterious origins. As soon as the midwives entered the door, Lin Wanwan couldn't wait to rush forward and ask, back then, did I give each of you 500 taels of silver to swap the legitimate son of the Marquis's household with my child? The 2 midwives hesitated for a moment, then both turned their gazes toward me. Lin Wanwan said urgently, why are you looking at her? Just tell the story of that year truthfully and clearly. In the future, I will be the biological mother of the Tanhua scholar, and I will certainly not treat you poorly. The midwife understood my gaze, and they began to recount the scene in the delivery room back then, one after another, reasonable and well-founded. Only overlooking that I had also rewarded them with silver notes. Yang Hongcheng's face grew darker the more he listened. Yang Lin's face grew paler the more he listened. After hearing the midwife's words, Yang Hongcheng punched the pillar beside him. A moment later, the back of his hand was bruised and purple. Yet he remained completely unaware. Yang Lin, pale-faced, asked me, Mother, am I truly not your own child? A flicker of struggle appeared in my eyes. 18 years of mother-son affection. Not biological, yet deeper than biological, from a babbling toddler to an eloquent talent, from a stumbling child to a distinguished gentleman. How could there be no emotion? Moreover, Yang Lin has always been filial. Every year on my birthday, he personally takes charge of the arrangements, and he never delegates the task of preparing gifts to others. Seeing Yang Lin's reaction, Lin Wanwan said with jealousy, she is certainly not your mother. Haven't you noticed that your eyes and eyebrows look very much like mine? Upon hearing this, everyone's gaze shifted back and forth between Yang Lin and Lin Wanwan. Although Lin Wanwan was already past her prime, it was still evident that she was a beauty. Otherwise, how could Yang Hongcheng have taken a fancy to her and kept her as a mistress back in the day? Looking at it this way, there is indeed some resemblance to Lin Wanwan. Seeing everyone exchange glances, Lin Wanwan said smugly, a son takes after his mother, there can be no mistake. Upon hearing this, Consort Yang murmured, the son takes after the mother. As if suddenly remembering something, she questioned sharply, if Yang Lin is your child, then where is the child of the Marquis's wife? Upon hearing this, Lin Wanwan took a few steps toward the rockery and pulled out the timid Yang Ping from behind it. Yang Ping, he is the son of the Marquis's wife. Yang Ping's expression remained cold and indifferent. Showing no reaction, As if he were not pleased with his status as the legitimate son of the Marquis's household, Yang Hongcheng took a swift step forward to Yang Ping, using the hand that had just been injured by the hammer to cover Yang Ping's tattooed area. At a glance, Yang Ping resembles Yang Hongcheng more than Yang Lin. After a deliberate comparison, Yang Lin indeed closely resembles Lin Wanwan. Meanwhile, Consort Yang's gaze was fixed on Yang Ping's face. As if she were seeing someone else through him, her eyes filled with nostalgia and sorrow. Yang Ping's pupils slightly contracted when Yang Hongcheng's hand first touched his face. Realizing that Yang Hongcheng had no intention of harming him, he still uncomfortably avoided Yang Hongcheng's hand. Yang Hongcheng, noticing the profound unfamiliarity emanating from his long unseen son, wore a pained expression. Yang Hongcheng, who had always adhered to the principle that a man should not shed tears easily in raising his son, was now almost weeping with old tears. He held Yang Ping, crying so hard he couldn't speak. "My dear child, you have suffered so much out there." Consort Yang looked at me properly for the first time, then forced a smile and said, "At a glance, this child really resembles the Marquise." The sage also carefully examined Yang Ping, then smiled and said, "Not only does he resemble his mother, but he also bears some resemblance to you, his aunt." Consort Yang's reply was flawless. "My brother and I have looked alike since childhood. Since he resembles my brother, naturally he also shares some resemblance with me." Yang Ping seemed unaccustomed to such intimacy, turning his face away and speaking awkwardly. "Does father not despise me?" Upon hearing these words, it was Consort Yang who reacted more strongly than Yang Hongcheng. Consort Yang's reddened eyes refused to leave Yang Ping's face. Even though it was marred by an ugly thief character, her voice was slightly hoarse. "No one will look down on you. You must have endured a lot of hardship all these years, haven't you? Are you called Pinger? From now on, you will be the heir of the Marquis's household, and no one will dare to look down on you again." Seeing Yang Hongcheng react this way, Lin Wanwan felt as if she had been struck by lightning. She didn't understand, could the difference between a legitimate son and a concubine's son really be that significant? Anyone with eyes can see who to choose between Yang Lin and Yang Ping, especially for noble families who are most adept at weighing pros and cons. How could they so easily give up on an heir they had cultivated for over a decade? Yang Lin's figure also swayed unsteadily, his voice hoarse. "Mother, could it be that he is your biological son?" Yang Lin carefully examined Yang Ping, his expression dazed as he said, "He doesn't resemble mother at all either." Just moments ago, Consort Yang had regarded Yang Lin as her own son, but now her eyes were filled with a murderous intent, wishing to kill him on the spot. Consort Yang immediately pleaded with the emperor. Lin Wanwan and Yang Lin deceived their superiors and concealed the truth, causing the legitimate eldest son of the Marquis to wander outside and suffer greatly. "I implore your majesty to uphold justice for me and my brother and sister-in-law." The sage showed a puzzled expression. Can the identities of these two children be hastily determined based solely on their appearance and the testimonies of two midwives? Consort Yang, with tears streaming down her face like pear blossoms, said, "Connected by blood, the moment I first laid eyes on Pinger, I knew he was my long-lost nephew." The sage's profound gaze fixed intently on Consort Yang until she shifted uncomfortably and asked, "Why is your majesty looking at me like this?" The sage replied with deep meaning, "I simply feel that the bond of blood is truly an extraordinary thing. How does my beloved consort wish to deal with these two?" Consort Yang's gaze toward Lin Wanwan was filled with hatred. Lin Wanwan, a lowly commoner, has the audacity to swap the bloodline of the Marquis's household, causing such a tragedy. Even death by 1,000 cuts would not be too harsh for her. Yang Lin stole over a decade of the life that rightfully belonged to the true heir of the Marquis's household. His crimes are heinous, and he deserves death. It seemed that this noble consort had completely forgotten how she had once regarded Yang Lin as her own son when she first entered the household. Now, her attitude was entirely different. I spoke up in defense of Yang Lin. Lina was completely unaware of the truth and was merely a victim of fate. How could he be guilty, no matter what? He is still the Marquis's son.
Immediately issued the order. Since you consider my favor to be an insult, you need no longer serve as the imperial consort. The Yang family is demoted to commoner status and sent to the laundry bureau to serve. Yang Hongcheng, you need not consider who will inherit the title. You murdered your own daughter in her infancy, a crime of the utmost evil. Your title is stripped, and you will be punished according to the law for murder. Upon hearing this, Yang Hongcheng was as if struck by lightning. He stared wide-eyed at the emperor in disbelief, his lips trembling, unable to utter a single word. He knew all too well that this time, there was truly no chance of turning things around. Imperial consort Yang felt as if she had fallen into an icy cellar, her entire body trembling, her beautiful face contorted almost beyond recognition. She glared at the sage, her eyes filled with anger, resentment, and a deep sense of despair. Suddenly, she burst into loud, shrill, and desperate laughter that echoed through the hall, shattering the hearts of all who heard it. "Ha ha ha, Your Majesty, how cruel you are! I once thought you could understand me, have pity on me. But now it seems you are just like all the other men in this world, cold and heartless, only concerned with weighing gains and losses." The sage frowned, a flicker of pain flashing in his eyes, but it was soon replaced by resolve. He left an oral decree ordering me to divorce Yang Hongcheng, then turned and left with Yang Jiehua. The guards immediately came forward to escort Yang Hongcheng, who pleaded with me for help. "Ninga, could you put in a good word for me with the officials? After all, we've been husband and wife for 20 years, how could you bear to?" I signaled the guards to gag him, and the surroundings instantly became much quieter. Only Yang Ping and Yang Lin remained here. I lifted my foot and walked out. Yang Lin's voice was hoarse and raspy. "Mother, where are you going?" I didn't answer. Taking one last look at this square-shaped Marquis estate, the celebratory decorations inside the Marquis estate had not yet been taken down, and the newly renovated courtyard for the homecoming visit was filled with the extravagance of a wealthy and noble household. But after today, the once infinitely glorious Anping Marquis mansion will be like a wall collapsing and monkeys scattering. I returned to my maiden home, the residence of a former third-rank official in the capital. Though it was not as extravagant as the Marquis mansion, it was still a large courtyard with multiple courtyards, but now it was completely empty. With moss covering the steps in front of the door, the courtyard was deep and secluded, and the sound of stepping on branches echoed. In the empty yard, it seemed as if the joyful laughter of childhood could still be heard. When I stepped out of this courtyard again, it was a crisp and clear autumn afternoon. I went to the bustling market, which was already crowded with people, all waiting to watch this batch of prisoners be executed. I heard that among them is the former Marquis of Anping. I wonder what crime he committed. How could that be? Everyone knows that the Marquis of Anping's sister is the most favored in the imperial harem. I stood in the crowd, my gaze piercing through the layers of heads, finally landing on Yang Hongcheng, who was bound tightly and kneeling on the execution platform. His head hung low, his hair disheveled, and the spirited confidence he once wore was long gone, replaced by endless fear and despair. Yang Hongcheng's eyes occasionally lifted, scanning the crowd as if searching for something, but in the end, they fell back down, powerless. What favor in the 6 palaces? The Yang family is now just a laundry maid. I heard she offended many in the palace before, and now everyone can step on her. I think it's just as well that the Anping Marquis estate is in trouble. Did you know that Yang Ping, the scoundrel from Pingkang Lane back in the day, was actually the illegitimate son of the Marquis estate? After being recognized, he became even more reckless and ended up in prison again. At the command of the execution supervisor, the executioner raised his broadsword high. A cold glint flashed, followed by the dull thud of the blade falling, along with gasps and sighs from the crowd. Yang Hongcheng's head fell with the sound, blood splattering and staining the execution platform red. Having seen enough of the spectacle, The crowd gradually dispersed. In the past, I watched with my own eyes as my daughter was strangled in her swaddling clothes. Today, I also witnessed Yang Hongqing's head fall to the ground. It can be considered a case of retribution. After leaving the bustling market, Yang Lin was waiting for me on a quiet street. He had lost a lot of weight, and though he was still a young man of 18, there was no trace of his former brilliance. The emperor has appointed me as the prefect of Lingnan, which can be considered a promotion. I must thank you, mother, for raising me all these years. Although the position of prefect was higher than that of his fellow Jinsha, Lingnan was such a remote and uncivilized place. If not for these events, he could have risen to a high official position without any trouble. Yet, in the end, fate played its cruel trick. This is the carriage mother requested. Shall I escort you a little further? No need. Lingnan is plagued by miasma and malaria. This is a health tonic I sought for you. Though I'm not sure if it will work, Yang Lin took the medicine from my hand, a glimmer of moisture flashing in his eyes. He was about to say something more when I had already boarded the carriage. Lina, after we part here, the mountains are high and the waters are long, and the world is ever changing. But your mother has always been proud of you. As you enter the path of officialdom, remember to serve the people and bring benefits to the region. Do not become someone like your father. Seeing him nod, I also felt relieved and lowered the carriage curtain. The carriage headed towards the outskirts of the city and came to a stop. Outside the curtain stood a tall, graceful man. Chu Xiong carried the fresh scent of grass mixed with soil, clearly indicating that he had been waiting for a long time. You're here, yes. I've come. For a moment, they gazed at each other in silence, as if trying to see through the 20 years they had missed in each other's lives. 20 years ago, Chu Xiong and I stood here just like this. Back then, my father, with his upright and unyielding nature, was constantly suppressed in the imperial court by the old Marquis of Anping. In the end, my father intended to ease tensions through a marriage alliance. The old Marquis of Anping, believing he held the upper hand, and given that his only son, Yang Hongcheng, had a reputation for being a libertine, found that noble women of comparable status did not look favorably upon him. Thus, the Marquis of Anping's household was actually quite pleased to agree to this marriage. But at that time, Chu Xiong and I were already deeply in love, so we decided to elope. We had planned it for a long time, but when the moment came to leave the capital, I changed my mind. I said, I cannot leave. If I don't step into this fiery pit, someone else will have to take my place. Yang Hongcheng doesn't like me, but I am, after all, the young mistress of the Marquis's household. I thought it would be enough to serve my husband, raise children, and live a simple life. And that's exactly what I did. I always turned a blind eye to Yang Hongqing's mistresses. If he truly wanted to bring them into the household, it wouldn't matter. But the old Marquis and consort Yang wouldn't allow him to take concubines. Under the urging of my in-laws, I soon became pregnant with a child. At that time, I would often stroke my noticeably swollen belly, hypnotizing myself over and over again to forget Chu Xiong. When I was 7 months pregnant, my father angered the late emperor by speaking up for the reformist faction in the court and was imprisoned for his crime. I later learned that it was Yang Hongcheng who had guided the situation. And my father had trusted him because of the marital ties between our two families. During that time, I shed tears night after night, while Yang Hongcheng spent his nights in the pleasure houses. When I was giving birth, Yang Hongcheng was unusually considerate, waiting outside the delivery room. I thought it was because he was a first-time father and particularly nervous, until he secretly brought a baby boy into the room. He looked at the baby girl I had just given birth to and let out a long sigh of relief. Fortunately, it's a girl. Even if I strangle her, I won't feel any heartache. It was only then that I realized even my pregnancy had been part of a carefully orchestrated plan, because at that time, the eldest Miss Yang, who was about to enter the palace, was already pregnant. After Yang Hongcheng swapped the children and left, the midwife bribed by Lin Wanwan stealthily replaced Yang Ping with Yang Lin. I spent a fortune to make everyone shut up. Before me, Chu Xiong's slender hand waved in front of my face. What are you thinking about? The boat is already here. By the shore, a gentle breeze scattered the rippling water. and it was already a scene of 1,000 sails passing by the sunken ship. After hearing the two stories above, what are your thoughts? Feel free to share your opinions in the comments section. Looking forward to hearing from you. If you liked this story, don't forget to like it, share it, and subscribe to my channel. See you next time.